Alright, EA Ermor turned 43, and we have some site searching that doesn't work out. We get to declare another prophet, so we're on our way to recovering from that war with Agartha. And then we have quite a few battles against TNN this turn, so we have 2 attacks, they have 2 attacks. This is where we're being attacked, and this is them marching out with more or less, I think, their entire capital force. So they have a few random summons, right? Some trolls, some goats. They have, a bunch of these griffins, which we've talked about, the undisciplined flyers. They have a lot of furbolg, both the infantry and a few slingers. And then they have a decent number of their sacreds, who are definitely pretty dangerous, although have like a relatively light bless for elves. They've also brought out, some of their mages. Let's see, no gems really. Okay, a few gems, not a ton of kitting, so like no like heavy thugs or anything like that. Maybe some air elementals, maybe some thunder strikes. So some mage support, but not overwhelming. But they have also brought out their pretender, who does have a lot of gems. Looks like he's got some reloads for people, and then also some earth gems for their own use. And of course, this chassis isn't as difficult to kill as some others, but still, significant. So they're moving out just against one of our 1 PD provinces, but still, like this is right what we have to worry about for TNN before we can take their capital. We're gonna have to beat this. And then we also get attacked. I believe this is where like one part of our army is. Yeah, just a small little group here. Looks like a few sacred bodyguards, a little bit of infantry. This guy's maybe air elementals. And then this lady is looking pretty dangerous with her setup. And then, we have kind of a smallish army, medium army. Not a lot of mage support here. In fact, almost no mage support. This is probably just going to be flaming arrows, if I'm remembering correctly, though we do have a good chunk of our sacreds here. And yeah, there's the scariness. So this is a Foul Vapors play, Foul Vapors trap. And then, here comes an air elemental, and then, this is going to be super effective against us, right? Like, we're just human units, we have no nature mages here, and, we have no poison resistance on the bless. Someone forgot, so you want poison resistance on the bless. And it's funny, I fought a TNN before and I was really worried about Foul Vapors, and it just never happened. And then so this time I was fighting this TNN and they didn't seem to be doing that great, so I was like, well, I don't know, just Foul Vapors, I didn't really think of it. Luckily we do have our cavalry on attack rear here, and they're pretty nasty, and we heavily outnumber the sacreds, and again the bless on these elves is like not that significant. So while our equite I think definitely can struggle with elves, you can see it's like not going great. We do manage to kill a commander, I think, or at least rout both commanders off. Our attack skill is definitely something that warrants some improving on these equite, and when we go up against the elves specifically, that's kind of like our worst case scenario. So luckily, this isn't a total wipe for us, but you can see at the end here a bunch of the poison ticks down. We do take pretty significant losses. The more I play, the more I think that every major army needs like some component that just goes in as quick as possible. Ideally, like turn 1 flyers, right? That's the best option, but it's a pretty good option for trying to deal with like any kind of cheese attempt. In this case, it was our equite on the attack rear that were fulfilling that role, and they did it okay. So we do lose the Augur Elder. I don't think this one was twice born, so that does hurt. We at least find his fire in a jar. We lose 9 of our sacreds, which is rough considering how many we've already lost. We lose, about half the infantry, which is pretty rough. It's recoverable, but like we lose like half of this force, and considering that TNN is marching out of their capital, this kind of puts us on the back foot a bit. TNN does lose some stuff, nothing too crazy. They do lose, one of their casters. This is pretty significant. It about cancels out, our caster loss, but on the balance, like this is definitely a bigger loss for us than TNN, and we're gonna have to like kind of rethink our approach here because this is going to be a significant danger for us. Luckily, we are already headed up enchantment, which is where the answers to Foul Vapors lie, because we want to do our fire gem play, fire gem generator. And yeah, here we have our twice born Augur Elders just making some skeletons. This isn't even the best skeleton spell because we're still working on that research. But yeah, against caveman PD, no problem. And then we have a similar raid. In fact, I think it's exactly the same. These guys maybe not quite back positioned enough, which is unfortunate because they're up against horse tribes. So one of them takes an arrow immediately. Which is fine. Again, like, these guys are twice born. It's kind of their point is to die, but yeah, there goes one. Ideally, we also take the province, but like, yeah. They're going to have to die in order to come back as white mages, and this does work out for us, so this is kind of the best of all worlds in some ways, because, yeah, he comes back as a white mage, and we also take the province. So, yeah, Horde of Skeletons rating, or not even Raised Skeletons rating, is super effective, and that part, at least, is working out well, and then we have a random event. After famine comes plague, fantastic. We do have misfortune, can't complain too much, and then we heal some afflictions, and yeah, I'll catch you guys after the jump. All right. This is the situation and what we're doing about it, doing the patented running away move. So this is where his army from the capital marched out, and this is where we got hit with the foul vapors trap. We have been weakened, and this is already probably too strong of a force for us to defeat, even with what we had here. We do have reinforcements that were on their way up, but they are actually retreating back to the fort. And then this army here is retreating back to this farmland province, and the hope is to draw him after us, right? Obviously, he knows that he just dealt significant damage, so he may not know, right? We have patrolled out a lot of elves. You never know. He could have some scouts, but he may not be aware of all the reinforcements that we have coming up. So yeah, we're gonna try to pull back a lot of troops into this fort. And then we'll probably try to reinforce this farmland, right? So retreat into the farmland, make him think like, oh yeah, we're in trouble, we're running away, you should definitely walk at us, and then try to take a battle here in this farmland. And also, being so close to our fort, we can bring out a ton of augurs, pretty cheaply. The good news about an army versus army fight is that there's no poison resistance on his bless. Actually, wait, hold on. I think there is poison resistance on his bless. So we may have to be careful. There's enough stuff in here though that's not sacred, right? His commanders are sacred, he has a good amount of sacreds, but most of his stuff is not sacred, which means he's not going to love the poison. Yeah, so he does have poison resistance on the bless, full. So that is nice, but again, there's too much stuff here for him to, if he does a foul vapors play, he's just as likely to HP route his own army as he is to, do it to ours. He may do it as, a spite kind of play, take us down with him, but, we'll have to deal with that if he does do that. We could choose to hide for a bit. Our research, we're about to hit enchantment 5, which is not a perfect answer to foul vapors. That's where you get foul vapors, so we're a little bit behind the enchantment research as compared to TNN. Oh, actually, wait, no, excuse me. Poison ward is actually level 4, which we already have it. So this isn't great. Area of effect 15 is big, but for large armies, you're not going to get everybody, even with multiple casts of this. But if you bring enough nature mages, you can get enough coverage that it'll be a lot less painful and still totally worth taking the battle, I think. Although we don't have a ton of nature mages that can cast this, right? If we give a thistle mace to our little hobbit fellows, they'll be able to cast it for us, or our Lars. Lars are so important for early EA Ermor. I already knew that, but just playing this multiplayer game is driving that home. We are bringing another Lar in this turn, and we have one here in this fort. I think we have one in the capital. I think they're kind of just spread around. We have one on top of the throne as well. So, we have a good amount of nature mages, decently high level nature mages. Nature 2 isn't that high of a level, but it's at least high enough to do poison ward. So we're not completely defenseless. We're a bit late in terms of getting our lizard shamans up, which would help a lot because they can communion up and give us access to quite high nature magic in battle. But we at least have some answers, and we are headed towards the full answer, if you will. So at level 7, there's Serpent's Blessing, but we're a good ways off from that, right? We're working on level 5, and then we want 6 for Eternal Pyre, and then do we even want 7? Serpent's Blessing would be nice, but there's definitely other things that we could be researching, and I'm not sure there's too much else at that level that's super useful for us. So we'll see, but in the meantime, trying to draw his army out, we're going to continue raiding with our augur groups, just the one lone augur here, and then, we're just going to raid out and, continue to put pressure on, continue to scout. We do, have a few assassins, if anybody splits out that's looking assassinable, we will go after that. Also potentially thinking, I think, this is one of our black bow guys, so we might have a go at, we're assuming the army's going to move here, and a lot of those casters are fairly dangerous, but there are a lot of them aren't actually very heavily geared, so assuming we can get that first shot off and we can feeble mine the casters, we actually have a chance at killing some elves. On the other hand, if we roll the pretender, probably not going to pull off that assassination attempt, so we'll see how ballsy we decide to be with that. It is definitely a lot of gems to be risking. Otherwise, not too much new going on that we know about. We are trying to move some scouts into position to verify this underwater rumble that Niflheim may or may not be getting into. Otherwise, it looks like Yomi's fort up here has been cracked by Machaka. Haven't really seen a ton of movement between Machaka and Niflheim. They may have come to an agreement. Or we maybe just don't have scouting in the right place. Maybe there's a lot of fighting going on where we're not seeing it. Otherwise, Yomi pretty much is done, and we're trying to scout deeper into Russ's territory, which is looking their capital's down here, so they at least have some territory. But it's kind of hard for us at this point to tell how large they are. We're also trying to get a sense of okay, well, how far does Calum extend? I know that Abyssia was making noises. I'm not sure if it was at this point earlier, maybe a little later, but around this time was talking about hey, should I jump in against TNN as well? Because they were fighting both of them, and I was letting them know that no, I'm planning on going deep in, although it does depend somewhat. Basically, it's if Niflheim attacks me, I'm gonna have to pull out, and TNN is all yours. If Niflheim doesn't attack me, then I think I got this. But I think I did tell them that they could have this province, which is not a lot. They're kind of in an awkward spot. Because I believe by this point they'd signed a treaty with Calum. Maybe not yet, because I think this used to be their province. But they may have ceded it. In either case, I think that war was super exhausting for both of them. And, Abyssia didn't really want to go in against Calum, and that's kind of rough because it's well, they have a sort of a border to the south here, but not much of one, and then a bit of no, they don't really even have a border with anyone to the north. Right, so if they don't fight Calum and they don't get opportunity to the south, I am the person that they fight. And so, in a lot of ways, this has been kind of an awkward alliance, I think, for both of us, just because of how the way the game shook out in terms of our wars. On the other hand, since we're both Fire Nations, I do think there are a lot of benefits to the alliance, and just having a secure border for both of us, who both have kind of struggled a bit early on, is definitely a huge boon. So, gonna try to, certainly at least leave them something of an avenue for expansion that doesn't involve Calum, although I do think that Calum has got to go if they're really going to succeed in this game, or they're going to have to decide that they're going to come in against me. I think that covers turn 43. All right, EA Ermor, turn 44. We finished research in Enchantment 5, moving on to 6, which we have discussed at length, and then we twice-born another mage. We'll have to check. The twice-borning I'm still back and forth on, but I do think which Augur Elders you twice-born is a very important choice, which I had not quite grasped yet. We bring in another Lar. That is a really good thing. I don't disagree with that. And then we have some battles. So we get attacked here, and then I think, this is a counter raid. Let's just take a quick look. Maybe some air elemental stuff and very light kitting. So, not too much kit for these Elven Raiders, but there's no province defense here, really, so they'll be able to take it no problem. That said, I do think, other than if they're going to summon some air elementals, in terms of the kit and the bless, those aren't actually that scary Elven Raiders, and with the right amount of province defense and the right PD type, we could definitely kill them, and I don't think it would take that much support for our PD. And then, this is Agartha clearing out one of our PD dumps when we still had dreams. Well, we still have dreams of taking Agartha, but we were much closer earlier. So this is 20 PD, and I felt it was worth investing because it was Amazon PD, and Amazons are pretty good, at least as far as independents go, but this is Mortality Grasps, and it's always just a joy to watch him work. He doesn't have any kit right now, and he has been horror marked, and he has a limp and a chest wound, so it's not like we did nothing to him, but like, yeah, he's still pretty scary, although, yeah, that chest wound does really hurt, although his encumbrance, yeah, is actually not that bad, because he is undead, so like, even still, his spellcasting encumbrance is only 4, and mostly just, yeah, all actually coming from the chest wound. So chest wound, a bad affliction to take, but not as bad on undead, but, he's clearly been doing enough casting that, but yeah, here comes the Soul Vortex, and, we've seen what regular troops can do, although you can see, like, without any kit, like, we're definitely dealing damage with these Amazons, which are, not good anti-super combatant units. And there is some risk of picking up another affliction here. Of course, regeneration really helps a lot with that. So yeah, I think he's able to come away with that. Yeah, with just some random chaff that he brought. Those are lost, but otherwise no losses, and that's just part of our settlement. It was kind of nice that it took a second because I think we were getting some death gems out of that province. So yeah, not the worst result, but yeah, painful, definitely. And then yeah, more skeleton raiding against just a few barbarians. Barbarians are actually kind of ideal targets for skeleton raiding because they don't like numbers and there's like no ranged component, so they're not gonna shoot arrows at your dudes in robes. So that works out for us just fine. And then yeah, I think this is our solo guy. Also with Enchantment 5 comes a Horde of Skeletons, though you can see I did not bother to change my script, foolishly, so we'll have to update that. And then yeah, this is the hoplites, and we actually get the route, but unfortunately we get sniped by sling stones. Slingers, pretty awful, but when you have dudes in robes, they are dangerous, but again, the point is to get them killed in some ways. So we take a province, and then we lose an augur, but we gain a white mage. So all in all, like, pretty good result. We do lose a province to some elven raiders, but that is going to happen, and this is all happening in TNN's lands, which is good, so we're not losing any of our core lands. And then this is Machaka just finishing off this fort, and like, this guy's he doesn't even have any leadership, so yeah, I guess the wall guy does not provide demon or undead leadership, so that's a bit sad for Yomi. Not that I think it would have made a difference, like Machaka bringing, I think, a pretty good amount of stuff here, like not really overcommitting, but what he's got is, gonna take, I think, most lightly defended forts. So yeah, I doubt he takes much, if any. Yeah, 1 archer, I think he can handle that. Although, this is actually the more expensive archer. Not that, this is still totally fine, but a little interesting that he's using these archers. The nice thing about these guys is they have the poison bow. So, poison range damage can be nasty. And then we have some unexpected events. I'm sure these are fine. Yeah, we strangle some fellow with a magic eye and then take his magic eye, so that's a good thing. And then we find some barbarian scouts. They won't say what they were doing. I'm sure it was just like a cultural exchange mission. Maybe they want to learn how to read the future in flights of birds. There will never be a barbarian attack in that province shortly, and I will catch you guys after the cut. All right, this is the situation and what we're doing about it. We are just digging in. So yeah, looking back at this, I feel like I definitely did not move fast enough during this portion of the game, but hindsight is 2020. So we're going to build a palisade here. We've been threatening to do that for a long time. I think this is a good place for a fort for a lot of reasons. It's a valuable province. Like, it's kind of in a weird, right? We're doing this weird war, and like, this is our only like connection to what we're hoping is going to be like a decent chunk of our territory, at least until we fix this Agartha problem. And then, of course, the other thing, too, is we're getting a lot of Dominion pressure, so we want to put a temple here, but I hate unforted temples, and I mean, the Dominion spread is going to be pretty important, right? Because, like, Abyssia's got full death scales. We really want to keep that out of our territory, especially a valuable province like this. So, I mean, this is all fine. It's just, this is going to take us like 4 turns. So if we wait for the palisade to come up, we're not going to move out for another 4 turns, which is, quite a long time. Like, things are moving along, no doubt. But we do have to consider, right, that we could get, foul vapors trapped. To that end, we're just bringing out the sacreds, and we're going to bring out the Lars, right? And they're going to be set up to do poison ward. And like, I think we can get more or less full coverage with this amount of poison ward. And this amount of troops, we could probably get away with more and still get, a good chunk of it. But we definitely, like, with 2 Lars, like, there's no way, with a huge force like this, like a ton of our infantry, especially if they're in a line, they're not going to get covered. And we're also bringing in like a big chunk of slingers. Like we are going to need a fairly big chunk of siege strength, because the other big thing is TNN also, right, decided to dig in and retreat. So they're not going to follow us out. It's looking like they're going to be content to just sit at home and make our lives difficult. So we're going to have to march up to their capital, potentially eating Foul Vapor's traps the whole way, and then fight a huge stack with their god, maybe inside their fort if they choose not to come out. So it's easy from the future to sit here and say like, oh well, I should have moved faster. But I mean, there's definitely reasons for caution. Like we're kind of an ideal target for Foul Vapors, and we're not in a great spot to counter it yet. I do think at this point I decided that I wanted to go all the way up to enchantment 7 before actually finishing this dance. And I do think that, that was a mistake. I think Poison Ward is good enough in a lot of cases, and probably was just bringing too much like Ostati infantry. Prior to this game, like I really strongly felt that it's like, well, if you're going to be up against one of the wipes, like you kind of need like the army-wide protection buff. But having played more now, I would say that that's not strictly true, and that if you adjust your army composition and things like that, the like smaller things like Poison Ward that just cover a certain area are like good enough. Will you take casualties? Like absolutely, but at the end of the day, like Ostati are pretty replaceable. We don't like losing them, but losing as many turns as we're gonna lose, right, to hit enchantment 7 just to save a few Ostati, not really worth it. So waiting a few turns to reorganize, right, and get ourselves set up with some Poison Ward, I think that is totally legitimate. But we're gonna wait a little while here while we wait for enchantment 7, and I think again, with the benefit of hindsight, that was probably a mistake. So anyway, we're gonna cover our fort construction just with our Equite, and hopefully catch any Foul Vapors traps. They will be patrolling there. We're still gonna keep the pressure on, right, with our Augur Elders, and right, I think we twice borned another mage, right? So we're going to continue twice borning Augur Elders and continuing to send them down to raid and die, because it's just a good way for us to generate white mages while also like keeping the raiding pressure on TNN. If TNN responds in strength, it's not like these Augur Elder raiding groups are hard to defeat. So until TNN chooses to split out and counter raid us a little more effectively, we're going to keep doing this because it's still fairly effective. But keep in mind that like at any point it will become not very useful if they choose to counter it with, I don't know about anything, but it wouldn't take that much. So the other thing research-wise, we will hit enchantment 6 this turn, and we are pretty much set for casting Eternal Pyre. And I was in pretty close communication with Abyssia at this point. About like, okay, when are you going to send me the gems, and when are we going to be ready? And again, we've talked about how like in some ways this is kind of an awkward alliance, and I also felt that it's like, okay, well if we put up the gem, I mean, first of all, like, right, we only have our fire income like from our capital, and we've talked about that. Like it's not like we've even searched like, okay, not everywhere, because like I mean we can't really site search like while we don't really control this, but even like some of TNN's lands, like we've searched like for fire gems. I think we searched a bit in Agartha's land for fire gems. Like we haven't found them. We've looked, so like 100% like we cannot pull off Eternal Pyre realistically, at least with the amount of spending that we did earlier on fire elementals without Abyssia. And then the other thing is that, right, if we're sharing a global, and especially if I'm holding it, that kind of ties us together pretty effectively, which is good, because like I've said, I feel like we're a valid target definitely at this point, like for Abyssia. We're like roughly their size, a bit larger, but similarly we've taken a lot of losses in early war, which is the same situation that they're in, and then they have a neighbor that like they don't necessarily want to fight, as same situation that we're in. But if we're sharing a global together, then it's a much more secure alliance. So yeah, that will hopefully be happening like either next turn or the turn after. I forget exactly, when it happens. But we will at least have the research for it next turn. In terms of scouting, so we, found Xibalba again. We're going to try to take a look. We did see a bit of action before, but so it doesn't look like Calum really has made a lot of expansion like elsewhere, like the Abyssian War, took up a lot of their attention, which makes sense. I mean, they committed a ton of Eagle Kings to that fight, so they couldn't have really had too much else to be committing to other fights elsewhere. Russ is looking, decently large, right? Like, so we're going to try to scout up to the north here and see if they continue to extend this way. But from this scout, we can see that, they extend, out in this direction as well. So we haven't really had a lot of contact with them, right? There was this barbarian province that blocked us off, and then this throne that's in their cap circle that they haven't bothered dealing with. So like, we've kind of been prevented from interacting with them too much, but it is looking like they could be decently scary. And then we have confirmed, right? Like, here's Oceania made landfall, so it does look like Niflheim is still fighting with an underwater power. We also see Pelagia has made landfall down here. Now this is Ubar down here, so this could be Pelagia and Ubar fighting, but possibly Pelagia is also fighting against Niflheim, and depending on how things go against Ubar, Pelagia might be interested in joining their underwater friend, or you never can say with underwater, possibly they're foes, but if they are friends, right, maybe they want to work together to both attack Niflheim. So, seeing these underwater flags on land in Niflheim's territory and near Niflheim's territory definitely filled me with joy. If Niflheim was just busy with the underwater for the rest of the game, that would be fantastic. Otherwise, we don't really have too much other scouting. Recruitment, we've been slamming Equite, but, we're low on money, probably upgrading, the Palisade, right? So the Palisade is cutting into our funds, definitely. We've mostly been recruiting augurs at this point, just because, our income to upkeep actually is not in a terrible place, but it could be better, and we would like to ditch some of those augur elders, which we've actually ditched a decent number, so probably we will have another round of augur elder recruitment, because they are fairly pricey to upkeep. And I do think that Abyssia and Calum aren't quite at peace yet, right? Because we can see a party of burning ones probably coming to retake this land. It's possible that they just agreed to peace and original borders or something like that, or they may still be fighting. We haven't really seen a lot of flags exchanged hands, so I'm not 100% sure exactly how that shook out. But so I think that covers turn 44.